Hello, everybody. Why don't you share this live stream out? It's going to be a really good show. It's the second part of AOC, aka Sandy, or Sandy, aka AOC, Goes to Standing Rock Part 2. So join us. Get people to join. We're going to play a little music till some people get on the stream, and we're going to have a heck of a show. Sandy, AOC, that's Goes to Standing Rock Part 2. You might get some popcorn out tonight. We're going to be watching Sandy AOC's first and only filming at Standing Rock. We're going to watch it. Size her up, size the people up, comment on what they're talking about, what they're doing, what it all means with this origin story that Sandy has made up. If you missed the last show, you should watch the last show. It's got some really good information. Sandy AOC Goes to Standing Rock. It's part 1. This one tonight is part 2. Bring some people in. Share this out. We'll get going shortly. Get going. Make sure you share it because you missed the beginning. You have to go all the way back to the beginning to see the beginning part. You don't want to miss the beginning part. So hang in there, get some more people on. We'll be right with you.
Welcome, everyone, to Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPP-LP, Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. And tonight, my show, Sandy Goes to Standing Rock, Part 2. I'm going to peel back another layer of the onion and examine very carefully what this road trip to Standing Rock was really about. If you will recall, Sandy, who is AOC, transformed into AOC on her social media and became called AOC on this trip. Although everyone was still calling her Sandy, we are led to believe had her awakening at Standing Rock. Her calling to be a public servant, her calling to become a politician happened as a result of this trip. It was all organic. None of it was planned. She didn't have aspirations to become a politician before that time. We're supposed to believe. I told you I don't buy it, and I want to apologize to people out there who love AOC. You have to understand that platforms, especially those that funded the campaigns of AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and many of these other people, Justice Democrats and the brand new Congress, are selling you something. And that something that they are selling you is hope. Hope. And the reality is that what won Trump the presidency is that he isn't a career politician. And no matter how much we respect the acumen, the skills of past presidents, there is a part of America that was pretty sick of that, of the politician. Sick of it, fed up with it, disgusted on every level. And that is why she needed to be a model of Trump. And a lot of the other, they say they hate Trump. Mm-hmm. But that's exactly what they are. They're entertainers getting into politics. They're both social media wizards, mm-hmm. right? And so I want you folks out there that are watching this to set aside, especially those of you who love AOC. It may bother you that I point out that her real name is Sandy. It may bother you that I point out that she claimed that she had her spiritual awakening on this road trip at Standing Rock, and that this led to her entire campaign platform and the Green New Deal, and none of it was planned. None of it. And keep an open mind. I'm just saying, please keep an open mind, because the real nitty gritty here is that a lot of the folks that showed up out there at Standing Rock, especially around this time, were building their careers. They were creating an origin story. Standing Rock was a movie set, a very expensive one that cost millions of dollars to the taxpayers of North Dakota, for which, as far as I can tell, they still have not been reimbursed.
No.
And it's fabricated to look like it's all organic because, see, AOC, the brand new Congress, the Justice Democrats, the people that funded all of these folks from the Socialist Democrats, right? From these groups, they don't want to appear to be like the billionaires that they despise. They don't want to be like the money in politics that they hate. So we got to paint a different picture. Yes, it's still going to be the same stuff, but we're going to call it something else. We're going to call it a spiritual awakening at Standing Rock. And that is what I believe is going on here. I believe that Sandy was picked, and we a lot of people know that she answered a casting call. Yeah, they held the Justice Democrat. These people held a casting calls. They wanted to find people that do not have any background in politics and see who they could run, like totally different, think outside of the box type of people. Mm-hmm. And Sandy answered. And they liked her. Out of all of the thousands of people that they looked at, they were like, she looks good on tape. And she seems to social media pretty well. So, yeah, let's take her. We can train her. And if you listen to her when she is unscripted, you'll be able to tell, like, she needs a script.
Yep. She's a good actor.
Because she doesn't sound like she's got this all inside of her on her own. She doesn't have that wherewithal on her own. So think about those things. And I'm going to start you today going through one of the videos that she posted. Now, remember, she went to the veterans camp. And at this veteran camp, which included Antifa leader and self-proclaimed veteran Evan K. Duke, who most recently was arrested for rioting in Oregon, right? Portland?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And who also is on a watch list for the Department of Homeland Security at the border for being suspected of operating with a human smuggling operation, international human smuggling operation. This is who she was in the camp hanging out with. And I know this, even though she has very little footage at camp. The whole purpose of going to Standing Rock was, in my opinion, to bring awareness, right? Mm-hmm. Yet only 1.6 thousand views are on this video that we're about to show you.
Well, this video wasn't released until recently. This stuff hasn't been out there. And, that just emerged because she's written this book, so it's like...
Well, she didn't write it, but yeah,
she's written this book that's about her awakening. And I just want to say hello to folks, that welcome to joining us tonight. You're on our Facebook, our 88.1 FM Fargo-Moorhead Facebook page for our live stream. We do live streaming on YouTube also at Duke1517 is the name of the channel. You can tweet us at media_PPP. Keep on sending the information. We love the information people send us. You can send it through Facebook. You can send it through email. You can send it to Cindy at kpppfm.com. Send it to me, Duke at kpppfm.com. You can follow Cindy public page at Cindy Gomez-Schempp. And, we have a kpppfm.com website where we put all of these programs. And I'm a little behind. There's a few that aren't up there yet, but sometimes that stuff kind of gets buried. And I'll have all our recent shows on there soon. You can find them on YouTube and on Facebook, but I'd like to put them on our webpage at kpppfm.com. Now remember, we are a nonprofit, non-commercial radio station broadcasting in the Fargo-Moorhead region. And so we raise funds from our viewers and listeners like you. And we appreciate your support. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, go to kpppfm.com/donate or hit the little donate tab. Read all about how you can make a donation contribution to our work. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the support we get from you. We appreciate you watching. So please share this out so more people can see this information.
Mm-hmm. And this is about educating the public. There are people, this is from 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Almost 4 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That this happened. And what happened at Standing Rock educated me about how these folks operate. How the frauds, how the actors, how the harassers, stalkers, criminals involved in these operations go on to hurt other people and leave a path of victims everywhere they go. And understand how they harass, how they stalk, how they defraud, how they lie. What do they do in order to achieve their goals? How far are they willing to go to hurt people, to get their way? To lie, to cheat, to do whatever. And I can guarantee you, this is the 600 level education on that. Learning what happened at Standing Rock is the education that you need to be able to tell. And, we continue to expose the truth about the people that, wear masks and lie and cause mayhem and damage wherever they go. We continue to expose those people every day. And for some of the people that are new, some of the people that have become, victims of more recent reports we've done, they contact us. They're very concerned because they see how damaging these people can be, and they're very worried. And I just have to tell you, education is key. But every day that you are more informed about how these operations work and how the people within them lie to you, then every day there is less of a chance that some new person is going to miss it, is going to not see it. And every day there are new successes. We've had a great day today. It's been a fantastic day. I want to wish all of those out there that are still struggling with oppression, with all sorts of difficult situations, that, your day is coming. But today was also a very, very good day. Lots of great things happening all around the country and even in other countries. It's an amazing, amazing day. How's your day been going, dude?
It's been going pretty good. It's been a good day. It's coming close to spring in our community. The huge snow piles are starting to melt off a little bit. The sun is coming up earlier, staying up later. Can't wait to be outside again and feel that sun on my skin. And, I have a lovely family, and we all get along, and we've been making great food, and we are doing well. So it's been a good day.
It has been an amazing day. And it's been an amazing day for a lot of people and for a lot of reasons. So have hope. Keep the hope. Okay? I was so wrapped up in what happened to Kathleen Bennett back at Standing Rock. And I knew that Sandy had been there and had left very little information or trace of anything until now that she's peddling the book. So I had to wait for 3 years to find out all of these connections and what she was really doing there and who she was really doing it with. But the day is here. It's now. It's happening now. And we're going to expose every bit of it. First thing, in addition to mentioning to you that this video from 3 years ago has only had 1.6 thousand views, I also want to tell you it only had 21 shares.
Really?
It's like she didn't care for anyone to see it when it was actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, because if you're so good at social media, this is a total failure of you getting the word out.
Yep.
And of all of the videos on her page, and they're not very many, this one says, and I'm assuming she's talking about her whole road trip and those set of videos.
Yeah, okay.
If you only watch one of the videos, but she could be referring to any of the videos on her page for all I know, make sure you watch this one. This is the one you need to see. And that's why I'm starting with this one. It's not in sequence of her road trip. It's not even in the sequence of the videos that she did at Standing Rock. And there was only about 3 or 4 of them in total. But it's the one that she said, that Sandy says, you got to see this. You got to see the whole thing. And it has tagged in it Susana Sandoval. Remember that name. It's going to be important. Live with Susana Sandoval and Armando Tellez, Carmody keeper and U.S. Marine Corps veteran at Standing Rock. If there is one video you watch through, make it this one. So, Susana Sandoval is a harmony keeper, right? That's how she is introduced here in the video. And Armando Tellez is introduced as an U.S. Marine Corps veteran. By the way, I knew exactly who Armando Tellez is, and I'm going to have to tell you before you watch the video how I know him. So, Kathleen Bennett's story came out, and supposedly there was a long list of people that had made statements about how Kathleen abused her mother as supposed witnesses. All of them were falsified. Many of them used fake names. I mean, how this was allowed, I don't even understand, but it happened. And I needed to find people. I already had witnesses that said, these accusations are completely false. We were with her, physically with her. We had Jesse Sankey. We had Josh Long. We had Ren Brown. We had other people as time progressed that were with her on the day that people claim that she left her mother covered in excrement and urine in a Green Army tent. None of it happened. None of it happened at all. But this guy, suddenly, as my reporting is progressing, lists a Yellowbird chase of Sanish Scouts, one of the people that I've interviewed on my show, and who was friends with Vanessa Bolin, one of the paramedics that helped to kidnap and send Mary Trujillo to the hospital. And she calls me and she says, Cindy, guess what? There's this guy at the camp. His name is Armando. He's my buddy. He's the guy that we met. Well, we were sitting around reflecting about Standing Rock and everything. And he told us this crazy story. He said one night he was really, really sick. Like, he thought he was going to die. He got so sick from vomiting and vomiting. He was just rolled up in a ball inside of his tent. And he couldn't continue to stoke the fire. Couldn't do it. He thought, my stuff's going to go out. I'm too weak to keep making my fire. So he stumbled out into the darkness in the middle of the night to find help. And he goes toward the first tarpy he sees. A tarpy is like, it looks like a teepee. It's a more
It's
robust,
solid.
more solid, right?
2x4 is in canvas and it has a flat top and a stove that goes right through the top.
Right. So he sees the stove that goes through the top. He sees the smoke coming out. He walks through the tarpy. It happens to be Kathleen Bennett's and her mother's place of camping. That's where they're staying at the camp. There's about 8 people that can fit inside of one of these things, right? It's pitch black. And he was given a place to stay. And he stayed there and recovered. And, you know, it saved his life.
Became their firekeeper.
And over the course of the night, he became their firekeeper inside of that tent. He had a miraculous recovery. I talked to the man to confirm whether or not, I still have never played that interview because I thought this guy is a liar. I mean, he was part of this whole operation to clear out the camp and remove people by force, including an old woman with dementia and her daughter. If framing her and making false accusations and putting her through this bogus legal procedure was the means to do it, then so be it. And Armando was part of it. That's what I realized in that moment. Because even though I questioned him and he denied that there were any signs of this woman being abused in any way that he could see, and he spent time with her and he held her hands and he looked at her. He said she didn't have any bruises on her hands. If she had been zip tied on the day that you claim, then she would have had bruises or some marks on her arms, but she didn't when I saw her. And it would have been right by the time that they claimed she was being abused. But even though he said that her daughter was very warm, that everyone treated him nice, that he got to meet this amazing lady who is a descendant of one of the only survivors of Wounded Knee, and she, you know, her and her daughter knew so much about the history. They're from Pine Ridge and blah, blah, blah. That lady shouldn't have brought her mother out there. That's what he had to say at the end of it. He didn't think that she should have been there. And I was like, who the hell are you to tell a person that's literally from this area, Oglala Lakota people, when they can and cannot come to their own land and be in communion with the other people here? Who the hell are you?
Yep.
But anyway, I later then saw him hanging out with Ed Higgins. In fact, he flew to Flint. Remember, he was in Flint afterwards? The Flint Flop House?
Yep.
The nonsense that happened in Flint, Michigan? Armando shows up there. He ends up going to Hawaii, too. Armando is everywhere with LaDonna and all of the people that orchestrated this mess. And he is the guide. He is her guide in this video you're about to watch. Okay?
All right.
So, it's important that you know that he's connected to the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock, Wesley Clark, and of course, that would include the Young Turks who raised the money for the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock and also for Justice Democrats to run her campaign right after this. Isn't that a nice coinkydink? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Susana Sandoval, this Harmony Keeper, I later found working with the Border Support Network to bring people here to seek asylum. So that started all the way back, this collaboration and including Native American rights and all of these issues and talking about immigration. That was all part of the package from the get-go. So let's start to roll video, and I want you to tell me what qualifies her as a reporter, because by the way, when they went to Flint, Michigan, they met with people there too, but she didn't say she was a reporter in Flint, Michigan. But she says that she used press credentials at the camp. I didn't see her do any other report except for this one. Mm-hmm. So you became a reporter, you did one report, you did a road trip, and you became an activist, and then you became a politician.
Then you ran for Congress.
Then you ran for Congress.
And this video is actually, it says on the timestamp, it was December 22nd.
December 22nd. at 2016,
2016.
which is a Thursday at
Yep.
6:49 p.m. And go ahead.
It's at Prairie Knights Casino. For those of you who don't know, Standing Rock in the reservation, the parts where the camps were north of the casino, and that was the only infrastructure close by. And it had, hundreds of rooms and electricity and Wi-Fi and a pool and showers and all that stuff, and a casino, and restaurant. And so people would go there. From the camp, they'd go there. So this is where she is. She's in an area that when you come off the elevators, there's little lounges off each elevator. So she's right off an elevator. I'm not sure which floor it was. I think there was only 3 or 4 floors in the place. But that's
4,
basically,
I think,
what the setting is here.
And I want you to watch their behavior. Their behavior seems very scripted. They look like they're acting. They really, really feel fake. And, when they're talking to Sandoval and this other person, this woman, Maria Swisher, I mean, she's a hoot to watch. She's just like, I'm going to pay very close attention to what these people are saying because it's soup's important. So they're propping up these 2 individuals. I think it's incredibly important because it's like the only 2 people that they really interviewed. Roll tape. We will stop to discuss at different points.
All right, we are live. We are officially live. Sweet.
Video only mode, swipe to reveal.
Wait, is the fingers over there?
Here we go.
Okay,
Yeah?
we're in video. Are we in video only? Okay, cool.
Cool.
Awesome. We're live. Say hi. Hi. Hi, guys. So we're here. Maybe you come a little closer for the mic.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So we're here with Susana and Armando. Susana's a harmony keeper here at Ocheti Shakoan, and Armando is a water protector, also hosted by Susana as well. Susana, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit more and the work that you do at Ocheti.
So I'm a harmony keeper, and we're working and standing in solidarity with the over 390 tribes that are standing in solidarity with Standing Rock and our other Indigenous brothers and sisters here. And so I've been in service to Phyllis Young, who's been the Ocheti camp coordinator, and as well as to the tribe.
Okay, I have to pause to make sure that you heard that. She is working directly for Phyllis Young, who's the Ocheti camp coordinator. You heard that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's important because she invited Wes Clark and the veterans stand for Standing Rock, according to the story. Although, turns out, from when I talked to Wes, he was invited there by Oliver Stone. Sean Stone. Oliver Stone's son, who incidentally has a show on Russian television.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go on.
In helping actualize and developing the camp. It's been my honor to be able to serve in whatever capacity I'm needed. And as someone who came here in order to keep the sacred space of the ceremony alive, it's been an honor to be a part of some of the ceremonies, a lot of the discussions, and to be able to use my skill set in order to create the space that we've developed here for people to feel welcomed, to feel healed, and to feel loved.
Great. Yeah. Sorry, could you? We just all need to project really loud so that this microphone picks up for everyone. So that's Susana and Armando. Do you want to tell a little bit about your story and when you got here and where we are today?
Certainly. My name is Armando Tejas. I'm from Southern California. I initially arrived on Thanksgiving morning, and since then,
He said he's from Southern California. Okay, go on.
as a Marine Corps veteran, I've been here in solidarity with the indigenous people who have been oppressed far too long. And even more so, I'm here in solidarity and unity to ensure that we are here together, that the rights are protected of the indigenous people, that the land, the air, and the water are protected, as well as in any which way we can as water protectors that we prevent any further construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline. I'm here in a role of servitude. I don't have any designated title or specific role in the sense other than to...
Okay, I have to call bull caca on what he just said. Every single one of these people self-titled themselves water protector. In fact, he just freaking said that. Mm-hmm. He also said that he is with the veterans, which had a very important role.
Yeah.
They had a huge, important role at the end of the camps because, as we now know, they were in a cleanup operation to shut it down. They were there to shut it down. And they got rid of all of the people that were there. And the people that couldn't leave, I mean, there was a blizzard. You have to remember, people like Kathleen Bennett and her mom were stranded in this, blizzard situation, just like everyone else. The road that went into the camp was closed with signs like it was illegal for you to drive down that road. In order for her to go to the camp, she had to violate the law. Se hizo pendeja. She went down the road and she wrote about the fact that she had an armed confrontation with law enforcement because she did that. And all she did was she played stupid. I'm like, oh, sorry. I am so wide-eyed. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
She shows up in the middle of the night, even though her plan is supposed to be to get there during the day so she can find a place to stay. And she just has a place to go.
Yep.
With somebody with the Women's Council.
Yeah.
She's got a place to be. It is precisely at this time that Kathleen Bennett is having her rights as guardian of Mary, her mother, taken away by Melanie Stoneman, by Bill Running Fisher, by Christina Hollenbeck, by all of the people that falsely accused her, said that she was abusing her mom, told a story to social services to have her taken away, and left this woman, Kathleen Bennett, to rot in jail, facing 15 years. Mm-hmm. This person, AOC Sandy, whatever her name is, she was hanging out with the people that did that on the days right after it happened. Do you know that when Kathleen Bennett realized that she could not go into the hospital anymore, that her grandson wasn't allowed in the hospital anymore, that they were told that they had to leave because Melanie Stoneman was now the guardian, the emergency guardian, and they couldn't see their disabled, with dementia, 82-year-old mother. And if you know people with dementia, they need the same familiarities around them. They need to have, So this was very, very traumatizing. And they didn't care that they did this right before Christmas. They didn't care that Mary Trujillo's birthday is Christmas Day, and she was completely alone, and she couldn't even get a call from her own daughter. And do you think Melanie Stoneman or the people, Armando Tellez, who was at the hospital by his own admission, and even went to the hotel that they put Kathleen Bennett in, Armando Tellez, the person you're watching in this video, that's there to protect and stand in solidarity with Native Americans, helped to put one in an early grave. And AOC is hanging out with the people that did this right after they did it. What are the odds that all of the people that she was hanging out with had something to do with the crime against Oglala Lakota women? And she had nothing to do with it. Didn't know, didn't hear.
Didn't talk about it.
The Kathleen Bennett case is the most internationally known story that came out about that camp. It made international news because of what heinous crime she was accused of committing against her own mother. And these people used it to be the ones. Melanie was the hero. Bill Running Fisher, one of the veterans working with Armando Tellez, they were going to be the heroes. As far as they're concerned, they didn't put Mary in an early grave. They saved her life.
Yeah.
These psychotic people, they're delusional in the head, and they think they're doing a good thing. Even when the people that they're doing it to are clearly telling them, you are not helping me. But I wanted to tell you that because I know that they are hypocrites.
Yep.
So pay attention to what they're saying that they're doing. And then we will talk more about what actually went down. I was called about Kathleen having been kicked out of the hospital on the 23rd. On the 23rd of December. Which is, I remember it like it was yesterday because it was my birthday. And I spent a lot of time with a very frantic family that wanted and needed to get back into that hospital and care for their grandma and their mom. And they couldn't. And AOC was at the camp hanging out with all the people that did that to her at that time. Everybody knew about the story about the 82-year-old woman that was in the camp and that was removed and taken to the hospital. Everybody knew who she was. So, folks, this is what they said they were doing. That's what Armando is supposedly doing, even though he likely went down to the casino and did this interview with her right after leaving the hospital, right after leaving Kathleen Bennett's side. Go ahead.
To simply support Susanna and the others who are here that are my guides, my leaders, my mentors as we continue this path of spirituality as well as unity with people from around the world who have come here, recognizing that it's not only been inhumane but unjust of how the natives here, the Lakota, have been infringed upon for the profits of from oil and petroleum and other things that the Dakota Access Pipeline is threatening to pass through the ground. And so it's been my experience as well that the spirituality has also been a new experience. Raised in a Christian household is one example of having a faith base of my own and being raised with one. I've never experienced this profound and very overwhelming spirituality that in the face of aggression, in prayer and song, we are strong. Mind and body and soul, those are our weapons. We don't come here with the purpose of being agitators as it is trying to resolve through peace. And we are, even though we are...
By the way, that's not how they resolve things. They literally showed up and started having violent confrontations with the cops all the time. Yeah. And started having fires inside of the camp all the time. Having people from their security teams that they formed patrol the camp, look for weapons, all sorts of crazy things they were running around doing. Robbing people, robbing people's tents. There's a bunch of stuff that these people were doing, and none of it was nonviolent and peaceful. It was all about confrontation. It was all about, a lot of it was violent confrontations with the police. So that is absolutely not true. When he said, we're not here to be agitators, he's lying.
Yeah.
You know how some people, when they talk, all they do is project? They're projecting. We've talked about that a lot on my show. Same thing, okay? They're projecting. And the opposite of what they're saying is actually what they do.
Faced with aggression, we will continue to face that aggression with peace, prayer, and song. So my role here will be to enforce that very principle, not to take any violence nor aggressiveness towards the opposition, as it is to simply ensure that the unarmed men, women, and children, young and old, have people in front of them and around them.
You don't have to show me on the screen, but how in the heck do you enforce being peaceful and prayerful? What does that mean?
I don't know.
It's crazy.
It's just the opposite of what's really happening.
I mean, what are you going to go crack some skulls and tell people to be peaceful?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Go ahead.
To protect them as much as we can while we're here.
Yeah, I think maybe we talk a little bit about why it's important that we maintain camp. I think a lot of people, they wonder, like, well, it was just announced that the Army Corps, denied the easement today, and so doesn't that mean that, this is going to stop? Doesn't it mean that the water protectors have won? Why are you still there? And I think, we were discussing this a little bit earlier, Armando, but articulating a little bit the fact that this is by no means over. So, like, where are we right?
Okay. All right. Let's just forget for a moment that there was a blizzard. Let's forget for a moment the fact that she herself tells you that she came into the camp on a closed road, closed down, shut down with signs that she violated, thereby leading to an armed conflict with law enforcement, where they came up to the car armed and were like, "What the hell are you doing?" And she just played stupid. Let's forget all of that. Because unless she just fell and hit her head, she should remember how dangerous it was for her to come into camp. And she's asking this leading question. Okay, for a minute, let's maybe we should talk about why we need to tell people to keep coming here.
Yep.
And why the camp needs to stay open, even though she knows that the camp now is full of mercenaries and con artivists like the people she's sitting next to, interviewing and propping up, posing a great danger to the people that were there, like Kathleen Bennett and her mom, and anyone else stupid enough to believe people like Sandy. But do note, she's actively encouraging people to come to camp, and she wants the guests to tell people why they got to do it. Let's continue to listen to their answers here. This is important.
Right now. Maybe we can let people know, like, where we are right now.
So it was 2 weeks ago, I believe, that the that the United States Army Corps of Engineers were denied an easement. And to date, they still have been drilling at least the encasement up into the easement. So there's still a little bit amount of drilling happening in the area near the drill pad. But the reality is that there is a legal process that still has to happen. And because of the actions of the governor calling in the National Guard and having the neighboring counties coming in, and the way that the militarized police presence interacted with the water protectors, we had a lot of civil rights violations, not only to Native Americans, but to U.S. citizens. And so we have layers and areas of litigation that are happening. So you have the litigation with the water protectors that were arrested under felony and misdemeanor charges. A majority of them are facing felonies, unfortunately, for merely praying in an area and standing in solidarity with.
Bull caca. A majority of the people that got arrested, Duke, had felonies? Is that your recollection?
That's not true. We followed many people of this 700 people or 700 whatever people. There were like maybe 5 felonies. Those from earlier with the fires. People that went and confronted the police say they had got obstruction charges, interfering with the work of the government. They were all misdemeanors. Almost every single one was dismissed. Plea deals.
Okay, hold on. Now let me ask you another question. Out of those that you recall, because she says there's layers, there's lawsuits. Do you know of any civil rights lawsuits against North Dakota, Morton County? Did the Water Protector Legal Collective, the Freshet, the Lakota Law Project, or any of those crooked lawyers that were raising money for the lawsuit against Trump and for the civil rights cases? Mm-hmm. Can you name one?
Nope. There's millions of dollars raised for the legal aspects, and Most of those people got public defenders, and there were no lawsuits. There was some stuff filed. There were some things that went out. There were pieces of paper. Never heard about them again. Never got updates. I don't think they made it very far to even get dismissed.
One story where there was severe human rights abuses of Lakota women? Oglala Lakota women? Horrendous abuse? Systemic? The case of Kathleen Bennett.
Yep.
That one is real. That one really happened, and we documented it. And they were involved in perpetrating it. Go on.
With the camp, when you release water cannons and release grenades into crowds of people who are exercising their freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and freedom of religion, it becomes very questionable on whose level of authority there is for that. And so we have people actually still here because they need to be going to reoccurring court dates, and there have been some delays, but we also have a legal collective here, so there's a community that has been developed that is committed to stay.
There's the legal
all the way
collective.
through, the extent of the fight against DAPL. I also think that people need to understand that.
Who's we? We have a bunch of people willing to stay till the end of DAPL.
Yeah.
Who's we?
I don't know.
Okay, go on.
With the incoming administration at the presidential level, with the president-elect, he has been very clear from prior to the actual
Trump is coming into the conversation
announcement of the easement being, and even his campaigning, he's very clear on where he stands around the environment, where he stands as someone who has invested in oil, in DAPL. And
he's personally invested.
He's personally invested as well. He's not the only one.
Rick Perry is also invested in the Dakota Access Pipeline, and he was just named secretary to the head of the
Department of Energy, which he wanted to eliminate. Oh, he couldn't remember that he wanted to eliminate.
Right. And then the other thing too, that the governor of the state also has economic interest. There are 5 railroad claims, and the governor, his family has a legacy of investment in the railroad, and in the creation of the railroad here, the railway system. And so it's questionable about who has authority, what their scope of authority is, how they're utilizing their limited power. And I say limited because in the area where tribal nations are recognized as sovereign nations, it's supposed to be a nation-to-nation state. And what a lot of people don't understand is that we have parts of the American government interacting with the nation. And the chairman of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe is an actually representative of a nation, a sovereign nation. And so it becomes very questionable when you have someone who is not the president of the United States interacting with someone who is in effect, in essence, the main representative of the nation. And so there's a lot that, as Americans, as U.S.-based Americans, we need to understand that there's a lot of history that we are not as familiar with. The area of treaty law.
Okay. Who is this bench? Susana Sandoval?
Mm-hmm.
Is she Lakota? Is she Dakota? Is she even native from the 3 affiliated tribes or one of the local tribes?
Nope.
No. This woman is Chicagoan.
Mm-hmm.
She's a Mexican lady from Chicago.
Wow.
A writer, educator, and poet working for Santa Global Consulting. I'm going to pick her apart later. We'll talk more about what she does and but I just wanted to make sure because she sounds like she's speaking for the Lakota and the tribal chairman, Dave Archambault. And is the other person, did AOC bother to sit down in the one and only interview out of all the ones, out of the 3 or 4 videos that she did at Standing Rock, the only one in which she interviews people from Standing Rock, and she couldn't find a single Indian from the reservation to speak for themselves? What's wrong with you, Sandy? What is wrong with you, Sandy? What happened to making sure that the voices of the people that are affected by an issue? Oh, wait, you're not an organizer. You're not a reporter either. You don't do your homework. You're talking to outsiders about North Dakota tribes? That's your source. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why she is going to this person and Armando Tellez, who was part of a scheme to kidnap an old woman and put in an early grave, and not local people from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. There's a reason. This is all contrived. Go on.
And how we, as the U.S., treat other sovereign nations, how we interact with people around treaties, how we fulfill our treaty obligations is very important. I think that this is many leaders have said that it's a teachable moment. It is a strained teachable moment because when you have water cannons and a lot of issues being brought up that could have been avoided by other types of interactions, if there would have been due diligence on the permitting process for the Dakota Access Pipeline, and the governor understood what his role was in that place, and also respected the rights of American citizens standing as allies with Native Americans here in North Dakota, the governor would have never overstepped his boundaries. And in fact, once they declared at some point in the last couple of weeks that people needed to leave the camp, he also recanted to an extent and clarified through a press conference that obviously people have a right to freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, but was concerned with their safety, and of course we're all concerned. I mean, many people are used to this kind of cold weather, and people are still at camp. There's close to 2,000 people at camp, so regardless of whether people, social media is not the news, and even the news is not necessarily the news either.
Factually based.
Exactly, factually based. Do your research. Spend some time. Now that we have access through Google and all these other sources of information, access to treaties, you can Google as much as you want, investigate as much as you want about treaties. The Fort Larry Treaty is
it's not Fort Larry. I'm sorry.
People should revisit.
It's not Fort Larry. If you're going to read up on the treaties, don't listen to Susana, because it's not. You're not going to find the Larry Treaty.
It's Laramie. Laramie.
It's the Fort Laramie. There is a Fort Laramie, but there is no Larry. She's thinking of a sitcom dude.
Yeah.
Right. This woman is. This is how far removed they are from really knowing their stuff. Yep. Go ahead and listen. It's like she's reading from a script, and she's doing it while falling asleep.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. Constitution is a document that people need to revisit. When you start violating the rights of U.S. citizens and saying, no, we're going to call in the dogs, we're going to call in the water cannons, we're going to call in, it starts making people remember other points in time of the history of America where people's rights have been violated. Mm-hmm. And the people are still being welcomed.
Now, AOC says she and her bar tending buddy, Maria, they got this idea. They wanted to go take a road trip to Standing Rock. Like they weren't already all friends and connected and working together, which they were. And then they go to the camp and just stumble upon one of these ladies who's a whatever keeper, a beekeeper, whatever.
Yep.
And then we've got Armando Tellez working with the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock. And they're going through what is happening to people in this media battle, because this was a media war that was waged on people nationwide and internationally. And she says there was the dogs that were brought out to bite people, and then the water cannons, and she goes through a series of different events that she neither explains nor gives any context for.
And makes an allusion to civil rights marches in the streets where black communities were sprayed down with hoses and dogs. She made that reference. This is a place where people took over a state highway, blocked a bridge, burnt vehicles on it, and were threatening a drill pad and a construction of oil pipeline. Much different than someone standing up for their civil and human rights. So you heard that comparison to me. I'm like, well, you're going to compare this to black people fighting for their rights in the 60s?
Yes, they are. Yes, they did. They did. Not only that, those events we now know were all staged. So if you know that they were staged and that there were people in them that were actors, B, D, and, they find up it seems like all of these fraudsters and con artists are washed up actors desperately looking for another chance to have some kind of fame.
A part,
Yeah. But they triggered those emotions. That's what she just said. This brought to mind for people what they witnessed in the civil rights movement where people were hosed and people... No, you brought it to mind. You put out those talking points. You used that type of propaganda and rhetoric. You equated the two in the same way that the caravan propaganda about the asylum seekers is that they're fleeing for their lives, and there's a reason why they start rolling out that propaganda. Because that is how they control the people who are talking about it and thinking about what happened at Standing Rock. No. Don't call it a protest. This is a water protector. Mind your P's and Q's. Excuse me. I don't care if you're media. You do not take photos around this campfire because it is a sacred fire. You cannot record anything that's said here by the sacred fire. Okay? And you have to, follow these rules that the Lakota people have. This is their land. This is their property. Turns out it wasn't. It was private land. Yeah. That's why they got kicked off. But point is, you were made to follow rules. Okay? And there was all of these different experiences that happened out there. Go ahead. Let's listen to what she says.
Welcomed into the space. We're in the process of consolidating camp and securing the space in a different way, both on a spiritual sense as well as physically, because we do want people to be safe in winter weather. I'm from Chicago. It's super cold in Chicago, but definitely not a -60, not a -40 below. And we deal with snow differently in Chicago.
What happened? Oh, yeah.
The cold weather.
And these are like exactly.
Okay.
These are like my legs are not this big. These are like our light warm weather boots. Yeah.
Oh my God! Look at our boots. We have these weather boots. You know what really disgusts me? What? I can't stop thinking about it, Duke. One of the main reasons that Armando Tellez and so many other people in the veterans groups and in the security teams that they formed at the Standing Rock camp, one of their primary complaints and concerns or criticisms of Kathleen Bennett was that she brought her mother and it was so cold. It was so cold outside. With the same face, Armando Tellez is sitting there with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talking about the importance of why people need to keep coming to the camps and laughing about their snow gear while talking about the -60 temperatures.
Yeah.
What hypocrites? You deprived someone of their freedom because you didn't think that they should have had their mom there, even though they had come a month earlier when there wasn't snow on the ground? Because you showed up and you decided that, she had to go, but you can sit there at the very same time laughing and talking about how important it is for people to keep coming to the camp. Which is it? Roll tape.
because today was a nice day.
This is no, so we can't go too fast.
So we deal with snow very differently. We have to understand that Standing Rock is a reservation. It has limited resources, a lot limited than most cities and most towns in the United States. It also houses a majority of the eight of the 10 poorest communities in the United States. I mean, when I first toured the reservation probably about 2 months ago, 2 weeks before the election, I was here on the ground with a delegation that included Reverend Jesse Jackson, and we were taken around to be shown, general questions about education, healthcare system, how the U.S. interacts.
Jesse Jackson, you mean of like the Jesse Jackson of the Push Rainbow Coalition?
Yep, that's who she's talking about.
The one that was connected to Jesse Smollett and his whole fraud deal?
Yep.
The one that went to Standing Rock?
Yep.
Along with a lot of these propagandaists and fraudsters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, move on.
With the tribe in regards to financial support, what that looks like, what the expenditures, how that's handled. A lot of questions in regards to what reservation life is like, and then visiting the camp and seeing no weapons, no drugs, no weapons are allowed. It's a sacred ceremony. Humans are humans. We all have our own personal baggage. One of our fellow water protectors shared a video earlier on the significance of the sacred fire and why the Gomez-Schempp is known as a seven council fire, why that fire was created, why the seven fires represent the seven tribal nations originally, different parts of tribal nations coming together, how the fire and the horn is created, etc. And those are things that are a natural law to people who have moved around in this land for many years. The fact of saying that indigenous peoples are the original water protectors, they're not only speaking up for their rights as owners of the land, where many mineral rights, many water rights have been ignored. They're owed millions of dollars. In some cases, some families have those rights, and they haven't been paid for the usage of transporting things to and from and through their lands. So we have that. And the fact is that we just recently had a pipeline leak, and they kept telling and informing the U.S. government, like, not only have you bulldozed, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers have bulldozed through our ancestral grounds and our ancestral lands and our sacred land, but you have a dangerous situation where the river's already polluted, and you put in a threat of polluting millions of people access to water. Over 17 million people depend on that water.
17 million.
It's a lot of people.
Okay. Now, I have to stop there because she talks about the horn and the sacred fire and how the horn was formed. She would know because she's obviously one of the people that guides people and takes them here and there and introduces them to the important folks.
Yep.
And the horn definitely had to do with what happened to Kathleen Bennett and her mom. They were directly involved. In fact, for those of you who don't know what the horn is, they just made up a group of people that were supposed to be in charge, and they put Menape, Lemaire, and a whole bunch of people, including
criminals.
Dallas Goldtooth, on this horn, so-called horn. Most of those folks, not even from Standing Rock.
Yep.
There were 7 guys, right?
Yep.
Okay, so right as this story breaks, I broke the story about what happened to Kathleen Bennett and her mom. Right as this story breaks, the witnesses come forward saying they have irrefutable proof and evidence that this whole thing was concocted and a complete lie, that Kathleen wouldn't ever harm her mother. And Allison Rensville reached out to them. Allison Rensville reached out to these witnesses that were coming forward to exonerate a woman and hopefully try to save the life of this elderly lady who was left in a hospital to die, who did die went to an early grave because of what they did to her. Okay? This woman, Allison Renville, attacks these witnesses for speaking out publicly and sends them a private message threatening them. Don't talk about that attack. She calls it an attack. What was, the kidnapping of Kathleen and Mary taken to the hospital. She says, we need to talk before you get the story twisted so that we have you on the right page, please. We know the facts of the story. It shouldn't be talked about yet. There are truths in the article. I hope you decide to not add fuel to the fire before the horn can comment. Now, you have to understand that I did my first story on what happened to Kathleen Bennett and her mother, debunking the lie that she had abused her mom on the day that the Bismarck Tribune posted the article saying that Kathleen had abused her mother. On the very day, I started that day exposing this lie. Those witnesses came out immediately on my show. And this woman attacked them and said, there are truths in that article. No, there
weren't any at all.
Not any. These people made it completely up. And she says, she says to the witnesses, I hope you decide not to add fuel to the fire before the horn can comment. This is up to the horn. You shouldn't be talking about it even though you know you were there, you're a witness, and you have irrefutable proof that this is all made up. Shut up.
Yep.
Just so you know, I want to point out at every step of the way who she was with, who AOC was with. Go ahead.
That depend on that. When you have a shortage of water happening in California and on the West Coast, and they're depending on reservoir basins of water, and we're trying to figure out where we're going to get the next water. Is oil that much more important than water is? Is our financial greed and the necessity for chasing after the oil and not understanding what the significance is that and planning of that? That's poor urban planning. I mean, people not really thinking about how we're managing our resources. And these are things that come naturally to Indigenous peoples. Them saying, like, you need to be aware of this. This is something that you need to be careful about.
Yeah, and I think Maria had mentioned earlier that oftentimes in pipeline debates, the idea of energy security comes up. The fact that the United States needs to be independent energy-wise, but I think Maria mentioned to me earlier, and if you could cite your source, that'd be great, or remember where you heard it or read it, but the fact that most of the oil that's being pumped through this pipeline is being sold to China. It's not even being used for American consumption.
I saw that on Young Turks, actually. And
Who?
was speaking about.
Who? Can you rewind, please?
In pipeline debates, the idea of energy security comes up. The fact that the United States needs to be independent energy-wise, but I think Maria mentioned to me earlier, and if you could cite your source, that'd be great, or remember where you heard it or read it, but the fact that most of the oil that's being pumped through this pipeline is being sold to China. It's not even being used for American consumption.
I saw that on Young Turks, actually.
On Young Turks, actually?
Yes.
The people that started Justice Democrats?
Mm-hmm.
The people that funded your campaign? The people that brought the vets? The people that helped put a Oglala Lakota woman with dementia in an early grave? Those people?
Yep. Those people.
Okay. Just making sure. Look how innocently they talk about it. But this woman, this woman, Maria Swisher, is not her bartending buddy. She acts like her, aide. She acts like the next up to be my congressional aide if I win person.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets annoyed with her. Like, she snaps at her. Sandy's like, when she's driving the car, could you stop the shaking? Steady the camera there. Like, frequently she'll be like, "Can you do this for me?" And I'm like, "Ooh." There's nothing wrong with Maria being her assistant and working for her. That would explain a lot of things.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with having a working relationship to someone where somebody has to call the shots and somebody else has to do the shots. That's fine. But you could tell us about it and not pretend, we're just friends road tripping. No. They're working.
Yep.
They're working and they're selling propaganda. Listen some more.
I'm trying to remember who was speaking about it. I can look it up and post it on our page later. But yeah, I think one of the big problems about this situation, from a point of view of them wanting to not is that the risk versus the reward. There is no reward actually. The reward is for a few very rich people.
Yeah, the reward is for a very small amount of people, and there are no this pipeline isn't going to affect gas prices. It seems like it's not going to make energy more affordable, even though it's not inaffordable now. Those costs have gotten under control, but this basic question of cost versus benefit, the cost of water access to 17 million people beyond Ochetti. We're talking about regular people in Michigan. We just
in
went
Missouri,
to
where I'm from, the Missouri River, all the way.
We just went to Flint, Michigan, where an entire group of people has total water health instability, and their children are now going to grow up with neurological and cognitive disorders, and they were none the wiser.
And what is the if you take it down that many levels, generations and generations of damage and health concerns and risks.
Maybe we talk about that a little bit. So we touched on kind of the spiritual element of the camp, and for a lot of people out there who aren't familiar with some basic concepts, I've been very touched. I've been familiar with the 7 generations concept, that your actions reflect 7 generations in the past and ripple 7 generations into the future, and so it prompts this extreme mindfulness of how you carry yourself and what you do every day. But even today, walking around and engaging in conversations at camp, it is such an actively practiced concept, in that people talk about their ancestors as if they are here with us, and in many ways they are. And so they talk about what our ancestors would have wanted and what our great-great-great-grandchildren would have wanted, and that is brought up in almost every single conversation. We talk about our relatives, and so
which is a beautiful sort of balance, it seems like. I think we were talking earlier, and you were mentioning we were having a conversation about this, like in the community meetings today. It felt like to us this beautiful respect on both sides, in terms of the younger generation voicing things in a really respectful way, and the older generation listening, and vice versa, and talking about how this sort of idea of progress and respecting tradition and respecting the things that have worked for a very long time is just a constant of how things are. Whereas it feels like society at large, or American culture at large, doesn't have that. There's no sort of like consulting of elders about what
we don't go and talk to crying Indians when we make decisions in our country enough in America. That's what she's saying.
Yeah.
You need to find the crying Indian from the commercial. Never mind that he wasn't really Indian.
Well, actually,
but you need to go and... So we don't have that. Isn't it cool, the 7 generation, the condor and the eagle, all this cool stuff?
Well, actually, it's, this is part of the propaganda that they're peddling. There's a lot of indigenous, a lot of native people at Standing Rock. A lot of white activists and faketivists, too. Majority of the people arrested were white people.
Exactly.
In fact when we did prisoner support, we got 70-some people here. It was like, where are the natives getting arrested?
The majority of the people were not
Yep.
from Standing Rock.
Yep.
There's not even that many, people. And interestingly, there wasn't a large number of people from I went around that whole camp as much as I could. We went and explored the whole thing. And we tried to interview a lot of people, as much of a cross-section of people as we could.
Yeah.
We did hundreds and hundreds of interviews during that period of time. We did almost 100 just of the people that got arrested.
Yeah.
Just of people that got arrested. So there are so many hours of footage and interviews we never even played.
Yeah.
But I noticed there was not a large amount of Lakota people from the nearby reservations at Standing Rock. There were some.
Yeah.
So there were some people that I interviewed that told me that the conditions at the camp were so much better than the way that they were living on the reservation.
Yeah.
That they didn't want it to be over. They didn't ever want it to end because there was, donations, clothes, food, wood, and they had medical people there that were giving away free medical treatments and healings and all sorts of things. So they did, there was some people that did benefit during the time that the camp was open, but the vast majority of the people that came to Standing Rock came from outside of the state and were not from that tribe, were not even indigenous, the vast majority. Okay, that's just the facts.
Yep.
That's the truth. So let's go back. Because I think what she's selling is very appropriative of Native culture, but they wanted to put an Indian on it, so they put an Indian on it.
Yep.
Let's go.
We want to preserve, but there is also this real
and how they handled serious and real disagreements. Some of the issues that were brought up today were very real. They weren't nominal surface, like should we do this or should we do that, but they were real conversations, like in the Women's Council, like the importance of wearing a skirt. And some people had the opinion that why do I need to? There were many different positions, and then there were elders that felt like we should, and it is the honorable thing to do. And there were two different sides, but at the end they came to a consensus, and the consensus was, the elders believe that wearing a skirt is honorable and that it helps channel a lot of these ancestral energies to you, and it's kind of a calling to your past. But however, if you feel like that is not authentic to your spirit, you don't have to. It will not be forced upon you. And it was a very, vigorous debate, but it came to a peaceful conclusion and common understanding. So that we're not doing all the talking here.
Oh my God. She is a horrible reporter. And you know what? She is an even worse activist because she decided to take over the conversation to talk about a meeting she had with the Women's Council, whatever the hell that means. It's probably Mulaney Stoneman. And she's telling you about a discussion of her wardrobe and her appearance.
She didn't want to wear a skirt.
Yeah, pretty much. Do I have to wear the skirt? No, if it's not part of your experience, you will, even though it would be more respectful if you did wear the skirt, you won't have to wear the skirt. You'll still look good in the pictures. Nobody's going to look. They're talking about preparing for her photo ops in a skirt. They had a discussion about it with the Women's Council. So these politicians, did all of them go and consult with a bunch of criminals in the Horn and in the Women's Council and all? That's who you went and got your information from on how to Native American and how to appear hip with Indian country?
Yep.
This is the people that you chose to have as your advisors were all of these con artivists and mercenary activists and fake Indians, even fake Indians. That's who you were taking your cue from.
Yep.
People that weren't even from that reservation. Either you're dumb or you chose those people. You wanted to work with them. You planned to work with them. You planned to get information from them. That was your choice from the get-go. And you didn't look for anyone else because you already had your choice picked out. So, roll tape. Let's listen as she continues talking about herself. No, she's good.
Josh, are there any questions or comments that have come up?
So far, I've just seen a lot of people joining, and
okay, cool.
we've gotten a couple of thumbs up, but nobody's
Awesome.
written in anything yet.
Okay, cool. So if you guys have any questions, I haven't even said that on the live stream yet. If you guys have any questions that you'd like us to talk about with Susana or Armando, again, Susana's a harmony keeper here at camp. She does a lot of organizational and leadership work, particularly with women at Oceti. And Armando is a Marine Corps veteran that has come here. So there's a huge dog. You can pan to it if you want. Just have a look. Yes.
Hi, Jack. Bye.
Jack was the best part of this video.
Yeah. Most interesting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, wow.
All the money's going to buy food for.
Great. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
He just gave us
What
some
we got?
bumper stickers.
Oh, nice. Oh, wait. So Santiago Gomez has a question.
Hi, Santiago.
Hey,
Thanks for joining.
He says, "What was that dog's name?" No, it's a joke. Sorry. No, he says, "How does one earn the title of Harmony Keeper?"
Yeah.
Oh, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah.
Wait a
my
minute.
Harmony Keeper.
Wait a minute. I'm going to answer. Oh, wait, no, I can't answer that.
Yes, I know
because
that.
I'm not supposed to answer all the questions.
Mm-hmm.
But she literally looked like a child. She's like, I know. She's
know.
like raising her hand a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then she like turns and looks over at her. She's like, oops, I'm not supposed to be the one talking at this part.
Yeah.
Watch this again. It's funny.
What was that dog's name? No, it's a joke. Sorry. No, he says, "How does one earn the title of Harmony Keeper?"
Oh, I'll let you answer that.
Oh, Tag, you answer it. Your turn. You know what? She let her answer that? That doesn't sound weird.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
I'll
you say?
let you answer that. Since you're the harmony keeper.
Both of us have the same information and knowledge to be harmony keepers.
And I just showed up today.
Oh, but I'm not supposed to have that. Okay, all right. I'll let you answer this one.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. So my Harmony Keeper is a tribal nation. It's actually.
And Santiago says hello, by the way.
Hi, hello.
My harmony keeper?
Yeah.
What is your harmony keeper like a thing? Is it a trophy? Do you carry it around with you? Did they give you little wings to put on your shoulder pads? What is harmony keeper? She calls it it's a title, right? It's a made up title. That's why she has stumbles over her words to explain it to you. My harmony keeper is Native Americans did it, and they said, ding, by the power vested in me, you are now adjacent to Native Americans, so you can start dressing and acting and wearing your hair like one and pretending that you are part of the Oglala Lakota, or that you are part of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, when you're not. Okay, then. Explain. Further. Explain.
I'm under mentorship of my elders, and so I'm technically still Teosinte, which is a seed. So even at my age, I'm still a seed in the process, and you're given a name, just like any other mentorship. There's a mentorship process, and so you ask to become.
Wait a minute. I have a question for you, Duke.
What?
She said that you're given a name, like in any mentorship process. I know I've mentored people in my life. Have you ever mentored anyone?
Oh yeah, there have been formal programs of mentorship. People come with the names that they're given names. Actually,
Don't you rebrand them and give them a new name?
No.
It's like any mentorship, she said, like in any mentorship, of course, because you get an Indian name.
Well, there's a lot of that going on at Standing Rock. All sorts of people got their Indian names, you know. I think Bernie Sanders got an Indian name, you know, stuff like that.
Of course, yeah. But you know what the ridiculous part is? Even when they're trying to pretend that this is like, you know, I talk to people that are from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. I told you I talked to a whole bunch of different people. And they... First of all, they didn't appreciate that nonsense. They thought it was stupid. And it's also offensive. They find it offensive. But more than that, when you're really somebody that is a religious person or a pipe carrier or a sun dancer or when you're one of those people that is meant to, you know, carry some kind of religious responsibility or ceremonial or you know, spiritual responsibility within your tribe, you don't go around bragging about it to everyone. Ooh, you want to hear my Indian name? Guess how many people came up to me that were Lakota or that were from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe that asked me if I wanted to know their Indian name? Zero. Zero. Because you wouldn't do that. But these people, even though they're like, I am under the mentorship of my leaders and elders and blah. I got an Indian name. I got an Indian name. You want to hear it? It's so cool. They cannot help themselves. Go ahead. Let's listen some more. Her gushing. I still don't know what the hell a harmony keeper is. Yep. I still don't know.
We span the North American continent, and my elders are in California. So if you want to give
what?
Alex, your info, I can try to, if you have any, I can put you in touch with, you know, with the structure, right? But I mean, the overall census is that...
if you have any what? Any what?
Info.
People?
I don't know. I don't know what she's asking for.
I don't...
Send info to Alex.
No, I don't understand what she just said. It wasn't in English. I didn't understand it. Go on. Let's see if she makes any sense.
You know, you decided that's a way of life that you want to lead, and then you present yourself for mentorship,
and it's a very real.
Oh, snap! It is about becoming a keeper, a harmony keeper. You go into a program, send Alex your information because my elders, the people that trained me up. What is this? The Nexium cult?
That sounds like.
What is this? Mm-hmm. They all got tattoos. They got Indian names. Send Alex your information. She's my secretary apparently now.
Yeah, I guess.
And if you have to commit, I'm just a seed now. I just got my Indian name and I'm called a seed. And I learned this one word. I'm going to tell it to you in the native language, so it sounds cool. And you can already see by the fact that I can use a native language that I'm already transforming from a Mexican from Chicago to an Indian. And yeah, you know, send your info. You have to be committed to this lifestyle. Sounds like you're you know, part of a I don't know, monastery or some kind of a cult.
Sounds like that to me.
To me. Okay, go on. What else do we need to do? And she knows about it. Again, she can't help herself. Sandy jumps in and she's like, I know all about the honey keepers, the harmony keepers. It's a thing that we do like this, right? Listen.
Role that you're playing. Harmony keeper is not just a name, right? It's a purpose. And so Susanna's purpose is to promote
peace and harmony. I mean, that's in essence, that's what we do. I mean, we're trained to secure communities, in essence, but part of that level-based understanding of security has to do with securing the peace of each individual. And so it's a very rigorous process and practice. And so I would say, you know, pray about it, you know, reach out to Alex and we can connect. We can talk about it. You can probably Google us. We have a website, and my elders are in California, but I'd be more than happy to have a side conversation with you. So Harmony, it's not like we have titles at camp. That's the other one thing I want to talk about. Nobody really has a title.
I have a title because I'm a harmony keeper, but nobody else really has any titles. You know, there's the veterans, but you know, it's not title driven.
Security.
But I did get an Indian name. We need to talk about keeping people secure and securing people and making sure people are secure. That's why they took over and started patrolling the camp. That's why Bill Runnyfisher, and remember, Kathleen wasn't the only person, her family wasn't the only people that were forcibly removed by any means necessary. There was other people that this happened to that were falsely accused of other crimes that they also did not commit. So this was not uncommon. This was not unheard of. And this is what they were participating in. Sandoval, AOC, they all know what the role of a beekeeper, whatever the hell she is.
Yep, harmony keeper.
A harmony keeper. It is promoting peace and harmony by ripping apart families and putting people in an early grave. You know, I just wanted to read this comment from Kim. Kim Libby writes, "They're playing games with our country, given pretend names. It's so juvenile." Well, I have to agree with you, but I also have to disagree with you in one thing, Kim. They're not just playing games with our country. They play games with people's lives. They will take people's lives. They do not care. If it is politically expedient, so be it. And it is spine-chilling. It's spine-chilling when you realize that. But it's all behind this facade of peace and harmony. Very sinister. Go on.
Because it's a very organic community development process that's happening right now. So it's not like I'm this and I'm that. Things have been organically changing. Even at today's community meeting, there was still some concern about, like, I don't want to be labeled security. Like, or I don't want to be labeled this because we're used to, in an American consciousness, putting people in boxes and labeling them. Like, this is your title, right?
Yeah.
But it's everybody's responsibility to do X, Y, and Z. So in the community that we've developed at Osheti, it's like, I'm responsible for making sure that my neighbors have firewood, or I'm responsible for making sure that everybody has a place to sleep and eat, you know, that there's a dry space for somebody to go to if it's raining. And it's more of a communal aspect that we are not used to in an urban environment.
Yeah, and I think, you know...
Teresa, thank you for sharing the video. We appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
thank you guys. If you can share the video, especially while it's live, but even after we go off. But,
please share.
You know, if it's going live,
Yeah.
it's awesome because it's great to build an audience while we're here. You know, oftentimes by the end of a stream, we'll have hundreds of people that have tuned in at some point or another.
And then just wanted to say thank you too for all your support, everything that you've done. The propane tanks that were brought with donations that were bought are being used by our community kitchen that's feeding people on a daily basis. We, you know, whatever has been generously shared with the camp is very much appreciated. We know that people have made individual sacrifices in order to especially during this time of year where people are celebrating holidays with their families. You know, we really appreciate extending your generosity to our family here. And I say that really wholeheartedly because we
want you to keep donating.
It's a challenge to live in a communal style that's different than what you're accustomed to. But I think that we're learning how to do that, and we're relearning how to be human beings together. And I think that your generosity of continuous support is allowing us to do that.
These people didn't know how to be human beings before they got to Standing Rock?
Huh.
I thought she went there to find out how Trump happened. And she went to Standing Rock to find out the answer to that. When really she went there to learn how to be a human being. The hell kind of nonsense is this? Go on.
And four people just shared the video, so thank you guys. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you guys for sharing. We really appreciate it.
During the duration of this broadcast, a person that was passing by stopped and was listening to the conversation. He purchased and brought a generator, and he's going to bring us tomorrow.
Oh, wow. That's great. That's great. We did.
Oh my
yeah, that's
gosh.
fantastic.
He's gonna bring us a generator. His name is Connie Siebel. He brought a generator, tarps. He's willing to do food runs.
Oh my God.
Guys, just
People are
because.
so good.
Yeah, you know, and that also goes back to the people, you know, watching back home. Like, because you're watching, and when we were in Indiana, we talked to a couple, and Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa. In Indiana, she talked about the importance of bearing witness and how just the fact of attorney choosing to turn your attention to something instead of looking away is an action in and of itself that can be transformative. And that's an example of what just happened. Because you guys have been tuning in and following us, we were able to make the decision to come here and make the commitment to come here, because for those of you who didn't see my status earlier, DAPL cut off wireless and internet access to camp today. So we had to move to a place off-site.
Okay. DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline, she is saying, the security people, or the company itself, turned off the internet? This is a woman that went on to be in Congress. Have you ever heard her demand an investigation? I mean, I saw her crying, faking a sad moment as she is looking into an empty parking lot next to a fence.
Yeah, with chain link fence.
You remember that, right?
Yep.
But I have not seen her demand or be upset about the fact that the internet was cut to the camp, the Standing Rock. So they were forced to relocate.
Plus, something that struck me in this one part of the video is a guy donated a generator and all that stuff, and they're all like, yes, wow, yes, more people donate stuff to us. Now, you do remember when this camp closed, people were stealing generators, they were stealing stoves, there was lumber that you could build houses with all over the place. There was so much stuff that got taken to the dump.
And burned.
And burned. It was being burned, and people burned it. It was being hoarded and stolen because people were being generous. Like that one guy decided, I am so moved, I'm going to donate, a $500 generator. I'm going to go get food and all these supplies. And they're saying, yes, people, this is the example you need to be looking at. Send us more stuff.
Oh, yes. You didn't think that she was going to not, put a demand for money out, didn't you? Mm-hmm. I mean, she was definitely going to use this as a ploy to collect money. They always do. Mm-hmm. People are so good, aren't they? Are you?
Yeah, really.
Maybe you want to send me your money. Mm-hmm. And, call Sandy if you want to help out people at the camp, or if you want to become a Harmony Keeper. She's taking calls. Go ahead.
With Susanna and Armando in order to be able to do this today. And but we made that commitment because you're watching. And then we're here having this conversation because you're watching, and then someone was behind the camera watching our conversation, and now we have a generator donated.
I have a comment here from Evelise Mary Morales.
Hi, Evie.
Hi, and hello from California. From what I've read,
California.
Hey, what's up?
That's in California.
Yeah. From what I've read, the nearby Bismarck community protested against the pipeline for the very same reasons you are: water. From your POV,
what?
Let's see, why doesn't it's cut off, unfortunately?
Okay.
But yeah. So yeah.
Oh well, I can
sorry.
imagine.
Yeah. I don't know what the rest of the comment
Maria
was.
Can pull it up and look at.
So
read
the
comment in
original
full.
route was supposed to be through Bismarck, and the Bismarck community did not want the pipeline to displace their community. And so you have to understand, when a pipeline, a public project, can come in and take eminent domain of a space, people are displaced from their homes. And so rather than displace people in Bismarck, and with the idea that the pipeline could also leak and health hazards, etc., and safety hazards, they protested the routing through Bismarck, and so
Yes.
that's how it got
ended up-
pushed into the reservation.
She reposted, so I can
Oh, okay,
finish
great.
it if that helps. From your POV, why doesn't the same argument stand for this community? Does it really come down to money? How would have the ancestors handled this situation?
From my point of view, because we don't know absolute answers, but from my perspective, Bismarck is recognized as a community different from Standing Rock. Therefore, Standing Rock doesn't have the same kind of representation nor the governmental structures that Bismarck has that was applied to create that diversion of going through Bismarck. It's an easier target to go through this land considering the lack of infrastructure, is from my point of view, is how and why this is continuing in this area.
I hope,
Yeah, and I think it's also kind of circling back to the fact that DAPL is still drilling, like despite the denial of the easement. And our
Okay, Duke. We have to make sure and correct the record. And now, this is 3 years old, almost 4 years old now, this video of AOC. So we know what really happened now. Did this pipeline ever was going to go through Bismarck?
Nope, never was. And not through Bismarck. There was a different routes. One was north of Bismarck, one was south of Bismarck. They did hearings, they did these meetings, and they decided to go on the south one. There was never a route through. They're making it sound like they're going to go right through town or something.
Yes,
know?
and the reason is, Duke, as you well know, because this is what the full piece of propaganda was. The mostly white majority of people in Bismarck didn't want the pipeline coming through their town, so they made it go through the Indian reservation.
Exactly.
They pitted these two groups against each other.
And what's interesting about it is that actually didn't go through the reservation.
Right,
It was
but-
north. It was north of the reservation.
Right, it
That's
was
why they
a-
blocked the roads and all that sort of stuff.
It's
It wasn't
a
even
lie.
on the reservation land.
No, it wasn't on the reservation, but it was also never planned to go through Bismarck. This whole story, just
It's
like
fake.
what they said about Kathleen Bennett and her mom, was fake. Everything about this is fake. Go on.
yeah, and
Armando was mentioning to me earlier that they're only fined $3,500 for illegal drilling. Is that
A nominal fee to what?
there's just sorry.
Yeah, 3,500 was what number I heard, but in retrospect, it's a nominal penalty that they are fined every day that they put that drill in the ground that is against the against what was granted or not granted. Nominal when it comes to what they can afford as well as the profits that they intend to make at the completion of this construction.
it's like a millionaire that's out on $100 bail?
Yeah, exactly. You're just gonna park wherever you want, pretty much. Spiritually speaking, especially in winter time, it seems like there's a period where we are recalibrating at Ochetti and we're figuring out the path forward. So where do you think, there's a lot of discussion about recentering spiritually. What do you think that looks like, and what are maybe some of the directions that may go in?
Well, we have at camp, we go back to usually Chuckle, and we have the sacred fire and the water ceremonies that are in place for that. The natural evolution of the actual riverbed. In February, there's usually a certain amount of flooding that happens naturally at where the actual camp is at. And
Can we stop there and correct a couple things on the record, please?
Oh, definitely.
I could already tell you were going to go for the stop button. Go ahead.
Well, that area does not flood in February. They're talking about there was this, okay, we got to move the camp now. It's going to flood. Here's some pictures of a flood 9 years ago, and it's all underwater. And so they're freaking everybody out. Actually, that year it didn't flood, and the Missouri River is a controlled river, but it's also really big.
And it was a bad
And
snowstorm.
it was it was a lot of moisture, and that year there wasn't a flood. So they're planting this idea now that it's going to be flooded out, so we have to move camp to another area. So we're going to take the whole camp of thousands of people and these structures, and we're going to move it. And they had never decided where they're going to move it because it was all fake.
She is just learning. Sandy is at Standing Rock for the first time. She doesn't know what's going on. She is being mentored. Apparently, she is also one of these honey keepers.
Harmony keepers.
Harmony keepers. I think that's a fake title, and I'm I'm going to call it out and
Harmony
say
Camp in Minnesota.
Bullcaca for that. But and she jumps right in and says, "We are spiritually speaking," and I'm like, is this bitch going to tell me that she is a shaman now? What's going on here? Why are all of these people talking about themselves as if they're on a different level now? Something has changed. Sandy got recalibrated at Standing Rock. Mm-hmm. Did you know that?
No.
A lot of people did. They had discussions over whether they should wear skirts and no skirts for the photo ops. Sandy did an inipi. Do you know what an inipi is? Mm-hmm. It's a sweat.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
People went to Standing Rock to have a Coachella experience, to have a Burning Man experience. And to appropriate, to use native bodies, native teepees, native traditions, native everything as a backdrop for their origin stories, for the kickoff to their career. And what a better way to do it than have a Coachella-style festival out in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota that was full of violence and drugs and criming.
Yep.
Was full of all of those things. Mm-hmm. They're like, because there's rules here, and this place doesn't have any drugs. When they were there, it was the worst of times for that. Mm-hmm. That's when the place was saturated. This is around the time that Bull what was his name?
Bill Ronnie Fisher?
No, his cousin. Von Bolage.
Von Bolage, yeah.
Von Bolage was thrown out of camp for bringing in guns.
Yeah.
And they were saying that he brought in drugs. These people were working directly with all of the folks most involved in this. Mm-hmm. And everybody knew it.
Yep.
I mean, when they interviewed Michael A. Wood Jr., I think it was on TYT, he looked so high. Mm-hmm. There was so much meth just rolling around the camp.
Yep.
Remember Dean Dedman being interviewed and it was the whole time?
And a lot of the deals went down right at the casino where they're at right now. I mean, that was a pivot point for trafficking their drugs in and out.
They said that there was a lot of people saying it in writing that were at the casino that Wes Clark Jr. was not sleeping because he was probably doing so much cocaine. Tell me how, because they accused him of not being able to sleep for a number of days. He said that was not that unusual because, people in the military have to do that, blah, 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 blah. Whatever the case may be, I know there was a lot of drugs out there. Mm-hmm. I know it.
Yep.
We know that now. People have admitted to finding bags of drugs and bags of money on my show. But she didn't know about it right there sitting in the casino in the thick of it. Mm-hmm. Any other inconsistencies that you needed to point out? I think we got it done, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Roll tape.
What happened last year was that at some point in February, there was some flooding that happened with the riverbed thawing out and kind of overflowing. And so we know that the camp where it's at itself, part of the camp is going to have to be relocated just because naturally that's what the river does. Mm-hmm. And so with that, but also looking at physically how to bring the camp into closer consolidation, making sure that people
Pebble,
are
you're making me
warm,
laugh.
warm and safe, etc.
I didn't say
Below
that,
0
but Pebble
degree
did.
weather is serious.
She's fatigued. She's just tired.
You can have frostbite happening.
Well,
and not
I
even
said she
realize
looked like
it.
she was falling
You
asleep.
can, think that you're
But so does
healthy
Armando.
and be walking around with pneumonia, not even knowing about it because we take a lot of things for granted, right? From living in varying temperatures, and so I think the reality of subjecting yourself to the natural course of what weather is like, and the physical reality of what it takes to actually maintain the camp. And we were having a meeting about enough firewood for people, and
She's
you know,
rambling
how
and rambling. What the
sustainable
hell
is it?
does this have to
We
do
had
with
solar
spiritual,
shower. We
whatever?
did have a solar
exactly.
shower.
We
at
have solar
camp
showers
at
now.
a certain point that was built out because
It
someone
doesn't
had
work
skill
anymore.
set. They want to show the skill set. We have compost toilets.
We have compost toilets that nobody used.
That don't work anymore.
That don't work anymore, that they
clean and
graffitied
maintain,
and turned into
etc.
living quarters
It's
at
also
the camp.
a natural and freezing temperature.
Donated by Patricia Arquette.
And so now we have compost toileting, and there's a process to that, and so there's been a lot of
There's hardly
skill
any
set
people
that
left
has
by the
come
time they
to
got
the
those
camp,
compost
people
toilets.
sharing
Yeah.
that, people sharing construction skill sets. How to winterize teepees. We had an elder today talking about, why don't we winterize the teepees that we currently have, because that's our traditional structure, instead of going to these other
Kathleen was
types
one of the
of
people
tents
talking
and,
about that.
yurts and all that stuff. That's great, that's fine, but that's not how we are accustomed to living. That's not, some of us don't prefer to do that, and they use wood burning stoves. And so, being respectful of what tradition is and how
Not every
you can to
place
an
had wood
extent
burning
contemporize
stoves
it
except
and
for the
what that looks
tarpies.
like.
Yeah.
They had
And
wood burning stoves inside.
Knowing that allies have come here attempting to help with their skill set, but knowing that it's Native leadership that's going to be making the decision, ultimately making the decisions, and we can present as much information, as much solidarity as we want, but this is a Native-led movement, and it needs to be respected as such. And even folks that are funded heavily for environmental justice and climate justice need to listen. And we need to listen at what Native leadership says. There's plenty of organizers that have gone back to their respective states, and we need your help. We need you to continue to be allies from stateside, from in your cities and your towns. I've done follow-up calls with people who have traveled here and gone back home. Like, tell me what I can do from my home. I'm in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I've been doing this. Like, what do we need to do? We're asking you still to write to President Obama. He has several weeks left in his term. He can still do something. He can pick up the pen and he can do an executive order. The different parts of the Obama administration have done something. It's not sufficient. It's insufficient. In fact, for somebody who, and I'll be critical, for somebody who has been awarded a Nobel Peace Prize, you really need to earn it.
It's Nobel.
At this point.
Nobel,
And we
yes.
really
Not Noble.
need to set a specific standard for the incoming
Called it
administration.
the Larry Treaty.
And so I
honey.
urge you to keep contacting your senators. Senator Boxer introduced a piece of legislation in order to assist federally recognized tribes. It wasn't a perfect legislation, but it was an attempt to move the EPW, the Environmental Committee, in what was left of her term as someone who was a retiring senator. She did what she did. Senator Sanders, I'm going to call you out.
What?
Senator Sanders, you're a seated senator. You could have been our president. We need leadership right now. You had a lot of your campaign people on the ground. We still
Remember,
have
they're
a
just
fair
on a
amount
road
of
trip
your-
over there.
Of folks that served you in your campaign that believe in a different type of America. We need you to do something. We need you to do something at the Senate level. You're quite capable of leading, and I think that it's something that people need to write to Senator Sanders. Senator
at
Sanders
Sandy.
has been in communication with
Watch
Senator
Sandy.
Boxer
Yeah.
about her piece of legislation. Anybody who worked on that campaign,
Anybody who worked on that campaign?
ask Senator Sanders to do something.
Tell him to do something. They're like, that's us.
I mean, there's a lot of Bernie
God.
Kratz, that have been, on the ground. We're asking you to put pressure on him. Create delegations stateside. We need you to visit with your legislators. Educate your community. Maybe people don't understand what DAPL's even about. We throw around acronyms. I still have people asking me, what are you doing in North Dakota? Like what's happening
Yeah,
in North
yeah.
Dakota, because it's something that they're not understanding. You know?
Sancho would give you a round of applause, by the way. Clap, clap, clap.
Thank you.
Great.
So I mean, I think it's important. There's still something for you to do. Whether you pick up the phone, you make a phone call, call the office, make an appointment to meet with the legislator, get a group together. We had plenty of clergy members go back. They did actions here on the ground in Standing Rock, and then they went back to their congregations and helped educate people.
And
testify.
this is what happened with Tom and Teresa that were telling us.
Congregations? Is she talking about religious groups or is she talking about communities?
No, she's talking about religious groups.
Wow. Okay, let's go back. I guess we were talking about spirituality, but she just goes all over the place. I'm like, I don't know what the hell she's talking about anymore.
Yep.
It's everywhere.
Political action.
That had been on the reservation and was,
We need to move away from not understanding or being ignorant. I mean, part of the process is we need to educate ourselves. And no one of us has all the answers. I mean, there are people, we've had scientists, I have personally had conversations with scientists who treat water, environmentalists who understand what endangered species are. There's endangered species that...
Scientists who treat water. Oh my God, Duke. I am going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
She's
They're
listen,
on and on
I don't
and on.
mean to do this to any of you. I don't mean to do this, but we need to study it. Every single one of the videos they have on there, I need to study. I need to study, especially this particular time frame, to get every little piece of information of what she knew, who she was with, and what she was doing there, and what she was planning on doing when she left there. If the way that she reacted to Bernie Sanders being named and coming up, and this woman looking forward as if she doesn't notice them practically jumping up and down next to her. I want to tell this out there to anybody that's listening that works for Bernie Sanders. You guys need to talk to Bernie and tell him something. They're like, that's them. They can't help it. And I wonder if it ever dawned on them, they're not supposed to be political agents working a gig. They're supposed to be, bartender and bartender's friend taking a road trip, learning about the world. So we're going to stop it there. I hope you can remember where that was approximately.
Let's have a look and
then we'll pick it up
39:35. I'll write it down.
Let's write it down, and we'll put a pin in it. We'll finish watching it later.
Put a pin
and
in
we'll
it.
no, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you all this good stuff I have on Susana Sandoval and Armando Tellez.
Oh, good.
All of it's going to be coming up. Don't you worry. I'm going to dissect it all for you so you get to see it. And I will be bringing you more programming on this and many other topics here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You've been listening to 88.1 FM KPP PLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your evening.